Stop that thing you do where you replay every word, every pause, every look someone gave you. You've been apologizing for that your entire life, but that's not a flaw. That's pattern recognition. That's the reason you can't be easily fooled, lied to, or manipulated. Stay, because nobody ever told you what you actually are. I'm about to. It's 2 a.m. You're lying there wide awake, replaying a conversation from 6 hours ago, word by word, tone by tone, that slight pause before they answered, the way their eyes shifted when you asked a direct question. The world calls this a problem, but here's what no one tells you. The most dangerous minds in history did the exact same thing. And they didn't do it because they were broken. They did it because they were hunting. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, general, the most powerful man on earth, sat alone in his war tent, replaying every interaction from the day. Not because he was anxious, because a general's hesitation could mean betrayal, a senator's smile could hide conspiracy, a subordinate's tone could spread doubt like poison through 10,000 soldiers. Miss the signal, lose the war, thousands die. His enemies called him paranoid. His allies called him untouchable. Because while everyone else took words at face value, he was reading the silence between the words. Your brain is doing the same thing right now, not because you're broken, because you were built differently. The question isn't, why do you replay conversations? The question is, what are you detecting that everyone around you is completely missing? Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see yourself forever. Most people forget the majority of what was said in a conversation within 24 hours. The exact words, the tone, the pause before the answer. Gone. You don't forget. And somewhere along the way, someone told you that's a problem. That you're too sensitive, too analytical, that you need to let things go. They were wrong. And I can prove it, because conversation replay isn't random. It isn't anxiety. It's a structured cognitive process linked to 5 rare traits that a small percentage of people develop more strongly than average. Here's what's actually happening inside your mind. Trait 1. Hyperperceptive social awareness. While most people process a conversation on one level, the words you're processing on 4 or 5 simultaneously. Tone, micro-expressions, word choice, what wasn't said, the timing of the pause, the direction of their eyes. Your brain is running a full social audit in real time. And when it doesn't finish processing everything, because you were also in the conversation, it keeps running after. That's the replay. It's your brain completing its analysis. This is why you'll be driving home an hour later and suddenly realize, wait, they were distracting me, that overly friendly coworker asking questions. Right when you stepped away from your desk, the replay shows you what was really happening while you were focused on their words. Most people never see it, not because they couldn't, but because they stopped processing the moment the conversation ended. You don't stop. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest." He wasn't cynical, he was calibrated. He had replayed enough conversations to know what was real beneath what was performed. In a court full of people who wanted him dead, that calibration kept him alive for decades. Here's what I want you to notice. The people who told you to stop analyzing, they've probably been fooled in ways they still don't realize. You haven't. There's a cost to this trait. We'll get to that, but first. Trait 2. Deep emotional processing, and why it's not what you think. Most people register emotions and move on. You don't. When something hurts, even slightly, your brain doesn't just note it and file it away. It examines it, turns it over, tries to understand what exactly triggered the feeling and why. That's not weakness, that's precision. You feel what people perform behind. The resentment disguised as agreement. The jealousy hiding inside support. The contempt that shows up dressed as a compliment. Most people take the performance at face value. You feel the person underneath it. Here's where this gets uncomfortable and important. That depth means you also carry pain longer. A slight that others would forget in an hour can stay with you for days. An offhand comment lands differently when you've already heard the tone beneath the words. This isn't you being oversensitive. This is you processing more data than most people even collect. Marcus Aurelius didn't flinch from this. He wrote about conversations that haunted him, not to wallow, but to extract the truth from them. He understood something most people don't. Emotional pain is information. If you process it, it becomes intelligence. If you suppress it, it becomes noise that distorts everything. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Your emotional depth isn't the obstacle, misunderstanding it is. The goal isn't to feel less, it's to process faster, to move from reaction to information to action without getting stuck in the loop. Stay with me, because traits 3 and 5 are the ones people never expect, especially 5. Most people who replay conversations have no idea what it means about their memory. Trait 3, predictive pattern recognition. Here's what's really happening. When you replay a conversation, you're not just reviewing the past, you're running simulations, building a behavioral model of that person, testing what you observed against what you know, looking for inconsistencies, predictions, red flags. When you replay a conversation and feel something's off, that's not anxiety. That's your pattern recognition system flagging an anomaly. Your brain has compared this interaction against thousands of past data points and found a mismatch, and you're usually right. When you sense something's wrong before you can explain it, a relationship shifting, someone pulling back, something not adding up, the pattern was there. You detected it before it completed. Most people are reactive. They wait until the betrayal has happened, until the conflict has erupted, until the damage is done, and then they're blindsided. You see it coming. Marcus Aurelius mapped people like he mapped terrain. A general who agreed too quickly after disagreeing yesterday, warning. A senator who stopped making eye contact, threat. He didn't wait for confirmation, he acted on the pattern. In warfare, waiting for certainty means waiting until it's too late. The cost? You can misfire. You can see patterns that aren't there, especially when fear is running the analysis instead of clarity. We'll address that, but the capacity itself, that's not a flaw. That's foresight. Trait 4, trauma-informed hypervigilance, the one no one wants to talk about. I'm going to say something most of these videos don't say. Not every conversation replay is a cognitive gift. Some of it is a wound. If you replay conversations obsessively, spiraling on what you said wrong, what they thought of you, whether you're safe, whether they're angry, that pattern is likely rooted in something that happened before this conversation, before most of the conversations you replay. Hypervigilance. Your nervous system learned early that safety is temporary, that people shift without warning, that love can disappear, that being caught off guard means getting hurt, so your brain learned to run post-mortems on every interaction. Not to analyze, to check, to look for early signs of withdrawal, anger, abandonment, to find the thing you did wrong before someone else points it out. This is not the same as pattern recognition. Pattern recognition says something doesn't add up about them. Hypervigilance says something is wrong and it's probably me. Both feel like the same internal voice. That's what makes this so hard to untangle. If you grew up in an environment where reading the room was a survival skill, where emotional safety depended on predicting someone else's mood, your brain built a system to protect you. That system is still running, still scanning, still replaying, because it hasn't received the signal that the war is over. Here's what I want you to hear, that adaptation was not weakness. It was intelligence responding to real conditions. You built this skill because you needed it, and it worked. You survived. But the same system that protected you then can imprison you now. It can make safe relationships feel threatening. It can turn a neutral comment into evidence of rejection. It can exhaust you with a kind of vigilance the moment no longer requires. The work, and it is work, is learning to tell the difference. Replay rooted in analysis has a different quality than replay rooted in fear. Analysis is curious. Fear is desperate. Analysis looks outward. Fear turns inward. You don't eliminate the ability, you learn to notice which mode you're in, and you begin to tell the part of you that's still scanning for danger, I see what you're doing. I know why you learned it, and we're safe now. That's not therapy speak. That's how nervous systems actually heal. Trait 5 is the one that surprises people most, because it's not just about memory. It's about why you can't be gaslit, and why certain people find you genuinely threatening. Trait 5, exceptional verbal memory, your internal record. Most people remember the gist. You remember the sentence, not the general impression, the exact words, the specific phrasing, the pause before they said it, the tone they used when they thought you weren't paying full attention. Other people's memories of conversations are reconstructions, assembled after the fact, shaped by what they wanted to hear, softened by time. Yours are recordings. This gives you an ability most people don't know is rare. You catch inconsistencies automatically. When someone says something today, that contradicts what they said 6 months ago. You hear both. When they claim they never said something, you have the audio. When they try to rewrite what happened, you have the original draft. This is why certain people find you uncomfortable to be around. Not because you're difficult, because you're accurate. You don't let the story shift. And people who rely on narrative control, manipulators, gaslighters, people who need to rewrite history to avoid accountability, find you nearly impossible to manage. They'll call you too sensitive. They'll say you hold grudges. They'll tell you you're dwelling on the past. What they mean is, you remember, and I can't rewrite it. The burden is real. You carry the weight of words that hurt you years ago with the same clarity as the day they were said. The tone of a betrayal doesn't fade the way it does for others. You remember everything, and that is genuinely exhausting. Marcus Aurelius carried this. His journals are full of precise recollections from conversations years past. He didn't catalogue them as wounds. He catalogued them as data. Information about human nature, about loyalty, about the gap between what people say and what they mean. Your memory is the same thing. A catalogue, not just of pain, of truth. Use it as evidence, not as a wound you keep reopening. The difference is whether you replay to understand or to relive. Let me say directly what most people in your life haven't said. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not overthinking. You process deeply because you perceive deeply. You remember because you pay attention. You replay because your mind is doing something most people's minds don't do. It's finishing its work. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, general, the most analyzed man of his era, sat alone in the dark and did exactly what you do, not because he was weak, because he understood something most people never will. Precision is power, and the mind that sees clearly is the mind that survives. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The goal isn't to stop replaying entirely. The goal is to know why you're replaying, and to make the process conscious rather than compulsive, to analyze when that serves you, to release when the analysis is done, to trust what your pattern recognition detects, to heal what your hypervigilance is still protecting. Not every conversation holds a hidden threat. Not every silence means rejection. Not every hesitation signals betrayal. But when your gut says something's wrong, it's usually worth listening. because you've usually already done the math. You just haven't caught up to the answer yet. You are hyperperceptive. You process emotion with depth and precision. You think in patterns. You carry your history and your wounds with unusual clarity. You remember what others erase. These traits cost you something. They can exhaust you. They can isolate you. They can keep you awake at 2 a.m. dissecting a conversation that most people forgot by dinner. But they also mean you see what others miss. You know what others don't. You're prepared where others are blindsided. The question isn't whether to have these traits. The question is whether you'll use them consciously, strategically, with discipline and with compassion for yourself. You're not overthinking. You're thinking at a level most people never reach. That's not a flaw, that's rare. Which trait hit closest to home? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if this finally gave language to something you felt your whole life, subscribe. Because what's coming next goes even deeper.